I stood in the entryway of my brother's engagement party when his fiancée pulled me aside. She leaned close and whispered, "You shouldn't be here. Poor people ruin the photos." She didn't know I was her boss's boss, or that her whole world was about to get smaller before the wedding. Would you have left the room when you realized what they were saying about you? Or would you have stayed as if nothing happened, letting them think you hadn't heard every word? My name is Julia. I'm 34. I run logistics for half the county, but no one knows my face. I built the business from the back end, systems and spreadsheets, not handshakes or press. It suits me. My family knows I work a lot, and that's about it. I let my brother Eric have the spotlight. He's always needed it. We grew up in a small town where reputations come fast and stick. I was the one who fixed things, got scholarships, and made sure the bills got paid after Dad left. Now we're both adults. I handle trucks, contracts, and payroll for a company that could buy out most of the businesses on Main Street. Eric sells real estate and tells people he's in management. He started dating Amanda 2 years ago. Amanda is the kind of woman who makes people stop talking when she walks in. She's tall, always dressed like there's a camera somewhere, and never at a loss for small talk. Her family has lived here forever, just like us. I learned after their engagement that her mother works in our warehouse office, handling invoices. Amanda probably never knew that. I don't go to many family events. When I do, it's out of a sense of duty. My mother says I'm too busy for friends, too picky for love. She means well, but I stopped explaining myself after college. Before Eric got engaged, he used to call me once a week, sometimes to joke, sometimes to ask for money. That changed after Amanda. He canceled lunches last minute. My texts would get a reply hours later, sometimes not at all. I asked my mother about it. She said he was just busy with wedding plans. I let it go. There were small things I noticed. Amanda never looked me in the eye for long. Eric started acting like I was a stranger at family dinners. Quick hugs, no jokes. I missed 2 birthdays. Nobody seemed to notice. When I invited them to my house, they always had other plans. I told myself it didn't matter. Looking back, those details feel sharp. But at the time, I thought I was being paranoid. I thought nothing would really change. I didn't see what was coming. The first thing I saw was Amanda's dress, the way it shimmered even in the hotel lobby's flat light. I had my hand halfway up in a wave to Eric before I noticed she'd moved fast to intercept me, blocking my path right in front of the Parkview's main doors. Her perfume hit first, sharp and expensive. She didn't even look at me, just angled her body so I'd have to stop or run into her. I could see Eric standing behind her, checking something on his phone, his thumb moving up and down. Amanda's voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise around us. "You shouldn't be here. Poor people ruin the photos." One pressed her mouth into a line. The other tried not to smile, but her lips twitched. For a second, I didn't move. I just stood there holding the small, wrapped box I'd brought. I could see the reflection of the chandelier above us, in the polished floor. Amanda turned slightly, so her shoulder blocked more of my view. I heard the faint click of a camera shutter from behind the group, but the photographer, a man in a black shirt with a camera strap digging into his neck, didn't even glance my way. Eric kept his eyes on his phone. I thought maybe he hadn't heard, but then Amanda's hand drifted back and rested on his arm, like she was reminding him she was there, and he was supposed to be too. He didn't look up. I felt my cheeks go hot, and my fingers tightened on the gift box. I forced a smile, small and pressed tight, and stepped around Amanda without saying anything. She leaned in slightly, so I heard her next words just above a whisper. "You never belonged here." I kept walking, not fast but not slow. I could feel the eyes behind me, Amanda's friends and probably a few others, watching to see what I'd do. The lobby was loud with voices and heels on marble. I tried to find somewhere to set down the gift, but every table was crowded with glassware or flower arrangements. I ended up carrying it with me, the edges digging into my palm. The group had started to gather in front of the main staircase for photos. Amanda was already laughing with someone else, her head thrown back. She didn't look at me again. Eric was farther away now, near the bar, talking to his father. The photographer glanced in my direction, but then aimed his camera at the group in pastels and navy suits. I caught his eye for a second, but he turned away, focusing his lens on Amanda's side of the family. For a moment, I thought about leaving. I looked back at the doors, then at the gift in my hand. I could hear Amanda's words replaying, the way her mouth barely moved when she said them. The laughter from her friends had faded, replaced by the sound of glasses clinking and someone calling for more champagne. I took a breath and kept moving, past the group, up the stairs, trying to look like I belonged somewhere. The box felt heavier now, but I didn't put it down. I didn't see Eric look back. Amanda's voice was buried in the noise, but I could still hear it, the way you remember a song you hate. The photographer finished with the main group and started arranging Amanda and her parents near the window. I waited at the edge, not sure if I should step in for a picture. Nobody called me over. I stood by a tall vase of lilies, the scent almost too much. I watched Amanda pose, her hand on Eric's chest, both of them framed by the city lights outside. When the photographer looked my way again, he didn't raise his camera. I watched him focus on Amanda, her friends, her family. I stayed where I was. I didn't see myself in any of the photos. I walked through the wide ballroom doors, the sound of clinking glasses and polished laughter spilling over me. There were gold tablecloths and rented flower arrangements. I could see Amanda's father shaking hands with someone by the stay. I stayed close to the wall until I found my mother at the drinks table, holding a glass of white wine but not drinking it. She was watching the room, her purse clutched in both hands at her waist like she was waiting for a cue. She noticed me, but didn't smile. I stood next to her, close enough that our shoulders almost touched. We both stared at the clusters of people in pastel dresses and dark suits. "Did you know about this?" I said, not loud. She kept her eyes on the crowd. Her lips pressed together. I watched her grip the purse tighter. For a few seconds, she didn't answer. Then she said, "Maybe it's best you don't stay long, Julia." Her voice was soft, careful. Amanda's family, they're sensitive about appearances. I looked at her, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. I could see the way her jaw set, like she was bracing for something. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Is that what Eric wants?" She blinked, looked down at her wine, and then toward the other end of the table. There was a pause, longer than it should have been. "You know how he is," she said. She didn't say anything more. The words just hung there. I looked at the glass in her hand. She hadn't taken a sip. I noticed her nails were done for the occasion, pale pink, a little chipped at the edges. She watched the room like someone waiting for a signal to leave. There was music, soft piano, and the sound of someone laughing too loud by the coat check. I realized my mother was making herself small, shrinking into the corner, trying not to be noticed. She kept glancing at the door like she was hoping someone would walk in and save her from this conversation. I said nothing for a few seconds. Then I asked, quietly, "Did you talk to him at all? About inviting me or not inviting me?" She shook her head, almost imperceptibly. "He's made up his mind, Julia." I waited, expecting her to say something else, but she just stood there, lips pressed tight, watching the room. I watched her too, trying to find a trace of the woman who used to brush my hair in the mornings, humming under her breath. She didn't look at me. In the silence, I could hear the ice melting in her glass. I said, I just want to know what I'm supposed to do. She glanced at me then, finally, but only for a second. Her eyes darted away. Maybe just don't make a scene, she said. There was a tremor in her voice, but she tried to hide it. Someone called her name from across the room. She flinched, turned toward the sound, but didn't move. She just stood there, frozen. I took a breath and stepped back. She stayed by the table, her wine still untouched, staring at the far wall. I left her there, surrounded by noise and glitter, alone in a room full of people pretending not to see us. I walked into the restroom with my phone in hand, pretending to check emails. The brunch was winding down. I needed a few minutes away from the noise. The Langfords' voices were already echoing off the tiles. I stopped short by the sinks when I heard Amanda say, "She's probably still out there, acting like she belongs." Her mother's voice was closer, a little louder. "Well, she's your father's pet project. At least she doesn't work with us." I slipped quietly into the closest stall, letting the door click shut behind me. My heart was steady. I could hear the rustle of Amanda's dress, the sharp snap of a makeup compact. Amanda laughed, a little too high. "Can you imagine, Mom, her thinking she's family? She's always so grateful, like a rescue dog." "Mrs." Langford's shoes clicked on the floor. She let out a sigh. "I told your father not to bring her. I told him it would be awkward. We give enough to charity as it is." Amanda's voice dropped, almost conspiratorial. "At least she's not working at the office. I'd die if I had to see her every day." Her mother snorted. "You need to be careful, Amanda. The new management is strict. We need those jobs." Amanda replied, "Oh, please. Dad has been there for years. They wouldn't fire us." "Mrs." Langford said, "You never know. People like her don't last in those places. She's not like us." I sat on the closed toilet lid, staring at the back of the stall door. My hands were steady. I could see Amanda's bright shoes under the gap, pointed toward her mother, S. I listened as Amanda reapplied her lipstick, clicking the tube closed. "Mrs." Langford said, "Just keep your distance. We have to protect what's ours. Her father is generous, but that doesn't mean we have to share everything." Amanda laughed again. I heard her tap her nails against the sink. "She'll be gone soon, anyway. She always goes back to her little apartment." The door opened. I heard footsteps and then silence. I waited, counting to 30. When I finally opened the stall door, the room was empty except for a faint trail of their perfume. I washed my hands, watching my own reflection. The fluorescent lights made my face look pale. I could still hear Amanda's voice echoing. "At least she doesn't work with us." I took a slow breath and left the restroom. I walked back toward the dining room, past the coat check and the heavy wooden doors. I thought about the company. They didn't know my name was on every document they signed. They didn't know I'd watched their resumes pass across my desk. I thought about Amanda, always acting so polite, smiling with her lips pressed thin. As I stepped back into the room, Amanda looked up from her phone. She smiled, just like she always did, all teeth and no warmth. I nodded at her and sat down in my seat, folding my napkin slowly. "Mr." Langford was talking about a new project at work. Amanda's mother laughed at one of his jokes. Amanda scrolled through her phone, not looking at anyone. I watched all of them, listening to the sound of forks on plates. No one mentioned me. No one noticed anything was different. I sat there silent, while Amanda's words turned over in my mind. Every sentence was clear. Every detail had a place. I didn't show anything on my face. I just sat, listening and waited for the next move. I walked out of the restroom, pushing the door open with my palm so it wouldn't slam. The hallway was empty. I straightened my dress. My hands felt steady. I kept my eyes ahead as I walked back into the ballroom. The noise hit me in a wave glasses clinking, the band starting up something slow, people laughing a little too loudly. I kept to the wall, taking a long route toward the bar so I wouldn't have to break through any clusters of Amanda's family. I reached for a champagne flute from the tray. A server carried past. He smiled at me. I nodded back. I sipped and watched the bubbles. I could see Amanda's aunt fussing with her necklace near the photo backdrop. Amanda's father was pulling people together, lining them up. Amanda's mother had her arm around Amanda's waist, smiling wide for the camera, pressing their cheeks together. Amanda looked over her mother's shoulder and caught my eye for half a second. She didn't look away, just held my gaze as the flash went off. I raised my glass to her, small and slow. She didn't react. Someone's phone rang near me. I checked mine out of habit, then saw the notification flash. I pulled it out, keeping it low against my purse, and read, "Payroll report for Langford Consulting, Q2. It was from the HR system, the same kind of email I'd gotten every quarter since they made me payroll admin on the project. I thumbed it open, just to check. It was the full spreadsheet hours, bonuses, overtime, all the names of Amanda's family who worked at Langford. The attachment sat there, untouched, heavy. I looked up. Amanda's brother was waving at a photographer, making a joke. He looked smug. The way he always did, like he was born with the right to be here. I pressed forward, out of the crowd, and leaned against a column. I moved the email to my private account. It took 2 taps. Then I deleted the original from my work inbox, and then deleted it from my phone's trash folder too. I watched my own hands as I did it, noticing my nails, my knuckles, the small scar on my thumb from a kitchen knife years ago. A server came around again with a tray of canapés. I shook my head. I watched the party from a distance. Amanda's family was lining up for another group shot. They pulled in cousins, partners, even some of the company's board members. Someone called out my name, asking if I wanted to join. I shook my head, smiling like I had somewhere to be. Amanda's mother noticed me and gave me a tight, polite wave. I returned it. She turned back to her husband, and I saw her mouth something. He looked over at me, then away. I took another sip of champagne. It tasted flat. I watched Amanda laugh at something her brother said, hand on her hip. She looked like she belonged here, in this room of gold chairs and white roses, under $10,000 worth of rented lights. I set the glass down on a high table and checked my phone again. Nothing new. Just the empty space under the deleted message. On the other side of the room, people were starting to dance. Amanda's uncle took her mother's hand and spun her in a slow circle, both of them grinning like kids. Amanda's father was talking to the CFO, shaking hands. I stayed where I was, watching, invisible for the first time all night. A woman in a blue dress passed by, brushing my shoulder. "Sorry," she said. I nodded. I glanced back at the crowd, then at the phone in my hand. The forwarded email sat in my sent folder, quiet and clean. I put the phone away, picked up my glass, and finished what was left. The bubbles burned my throat. I stayed at the edge of the party, waiting for the next shift in the night. The kitchen emptied out after dinner. Most people drifted to the back patio or hovered around the living room, but Eric stayed behind, standing near the dessert table. He was picking at a plate of lemon bars, not eating, just moving them around. I walked over and stopped beside him. The plates were already half empty, napkins scattered, a few crumbs left where people had helped themselves. He didn't look up when I joined him. "Are you happy, Eric?" I kept my voice quiet. He flinched a little, like he'd been caught off guard. He set down the lemon bar he was holding and wiped his hands on a napkin, still not looking at me. Amanda's family can help me, Jules. This is a step up for both of us. A step up, I said. He nodded, eyes on the table. I waited. Is that why you didn't tell them who I am? I kept my tone flat. He shrugged, almost careless, but I could see a muscle twitch in his jaw. It's easier this way, he said. They think you're just, you know. I didn't correct them. He started stacking empty plates, avoiding my eyes. I see, I said. He finally glanced at me, just for a second, then back at the napkins in his hand. He looked tired, older than he had this morning. The hum from the patio drifted in a few people laughing, someone calling for coffee. The rest of the house was quiet. Eric fiddled with the dessert tongs, set them down, then picked them up again. You could have told them, I said. He shook his head. It's complicated. Amanda's family, they have expectations. They want things simple. Clean. He shrugged again, smaller this time. I didn't want to make it a thing. So you let them think I'm just another guest. He nodded. His face was flushed. You make things messy, Jules. You always have. I let that hang between us. He didn't look at me. The noise from the other room got louder. Someone clapping, Amanda's voice carrying above the rest. You think this is a step up? I asked. He hesitated. For me, yeah. For both of us, maybe. He said it like he was trying to convince himself. I pressed my palm against the table edge, watching his hands. He kept folding napkins, one after another. I could see a smear of lemon curd on his thumb. He wiped it on his pants. You're doing this for you, Eric. He didn't answer. The silence stretched out until it felt fragile. I straightened up. You should go back to them, I said. He glanced at the door, then back at me. I'll be there in a minute. I left him with the dishes and the hum of voices from the patio. As I stepped away, I heard him sigh long, quiet, almost a whisper. I kept walking, not looking back. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, the light from the screen too bright in the dark. I hadn't turned on any lamps. My phone was face down beside me, silent. The only sound was the fridge clicking once in a while. I typed my company credentials into the HR portal, careful with each letter. My hands were steady. I waited for the system to load, then searched by last name, Langford. Pages of records appeared. I scrolled. Amanda Langford, employee since 2019. Her father, Bill Langford, contractor, business partner, main contact for Langford Consulting. The consulting contract was up for renewal in 3 months. I pulled up their time logs. Amanda's hours were always rounded up to the nearest half hour, even on days when I knew she'd left early. Bill had signed off on them. It was all their columns of dates and numbers, like clockwork. I clicked into the project folders. Billing invoices attached to emails, some marked urgent. A few had been resubmitted, with the numbers slightly changed. There were notes from Amanda. Need this processed ASAP, Dad, waiting on payment. My boss had replied once. Please confirm project completion before invoicing. The next email, Amanda had just attached a PDF. No answer, just the invoice. I opened the performance reviews. Amanda's manager, Rachel, had marked her as meets expectations every year. The comments were short. Good team player. Needs to work on punctuality. No mention of the times Amanda missed Friday deadlines or the client complaints I'd heard in the break room. I remembered one meeting when Amanda had taken credit for a report I'd drafted. Rachel had nodded, said, "Great initiative." No one looked at me. I made a folder on my desktop and started saving files. Screenshots of missed deadlines, flagged emails, invoice PDFs. I copied the spreadsheet showing Amanda's logged hours against the office keycard records. There were days she'd clocked out at 3, but her timesheet said 5:30. I checked the renewal date for Langford Consulting's contract again. 3 months. I checked our company's policy for contract review. Any employee can flag a vendor for audit with supporting documentation. I drafted a new internal mem. Subject: Langford Consulting Contract Review Request. I started typing. Please see attached documentation regarding discrepancies in project billing, time logs, and performance. I listed the invoices by number. I attached the files. No adjectives, no speculation. Just fact dates, numbers, emails. I stopped and read through everything twice. I thought about Amanda's face at lunch that day, the way she'd laughed when her dad called her smart. I remembered the time she'd asked if I wanted to split a cab, said she'd expense it to her dad's account. I had said no, then watched her wave from the curb as the car pulled away. I hovered my cursor over the send button. It was just a small box, blue and harmless. My heart didn't race. I waited. I thought about how quiet the house was, how it would feel to close the laptop and go to bed. I looked at the memo again. I hadn't signed my name. I clicked send. The document disappeared from my screen, replaced by a green checkmark. Your request has been submitted. I closed all the windows and deleted the folder from my desktop. The house felt colder. I finished the last of my tea and turned off the laptop. No one would see my hand in it, not at first. I stood up and stretched, trying to shake the tension from my shoulders. The silence in the room didn't change. I left the kitchen and went to bed without checking my phone. Monday morning, right after I sit down at my desk, I get a new email. It pops up in my work inbox, not my direct one, which is odd. I open it. The subject line says, Client Invoices. The sender is Amanda Langford. For a moment, I just stare at her name. The message is short and brisk. Julia, please resend the last 2 client invoices. My mother says there's a mistake. Amanda Langford. No greeting, no signature beyond her name. She's writing as if I'm one of the admin staff, probably assuming I'm just another nobody. I scroll up, double-check that she sent it to the generic inquiries address, not my direct CEO one. She must not have paid attention to who owns the company. That figures. I sit for a while, thinking about what to do. It would be easy to forward the invoices, but that's not my job and not how our process works. Instead, I draft a reply. I use my CEO account. The signature is clear at the bottom. Dear Amanda, I will escalate your request to the contract owner. Julia Marks, owner. I read over it twice before hitting send. I keep my face blank, though my hands feel steady. A few minutes later, my phone rings at the front desk. I hear the receptionist's side of the conversation through the glass door. This is Amanda Langford. I need to speak to Julia. It's urgent. The receptionist sounds puzzled. Certainly, MS. Langford. May I ask what this is about? It's about a billing error. Just put me through. A moment later, my office phone lights up. I pick up. Julia Marks speaking. There's a long pause. I hear her breathing, then a faint cough. I wait. I don't say anything. Is this Julia Marks, the owner? Yes. She goes quiet. I can almost hear her thinking. She must realize now that the person she just ordered around is the same one who signs her mother's checks. Her voice drops. I'm sorry. I thought my mother said I didn't mean. I let the silence hang. After a few seconds, I hang up. I set the receiver back in its cradle. My hands don't shake. I look at the inbox. Nothing new. In the outer office, the receptionist glances at me, eyebrows raised. I just shake my head once. She turns back to her screen. The rest of the morning, I keep working. I check numbers, approve a few reports, answer calls from actual clients. Amanda doesn't call back. No more emails from her, either. I think about how easy it is for people to assume things. How Amanda didn't even bother to look up who she was writing to, just sent a demand to the girl in the office. Probably assumed I'd scurry around, fix her mistake, maybe apologize. Instead, she got put through to the one person she can't order around. Now she knows. I get up and refill my water glass. On the way back, I pass the conference room. My reflection in the glass looks the same as always. Calm, hair back, suit jacket buttoned. Nobody in the office says anything. The day moves on. Around noon, I get an email from our accountant. She's CC'd Amanda's mother, Alina. The message is polite and distant. She's attached the invoices with a note. No errors were found. If there are further questions, please contact Julia Marks directly. I don't reply. I just read it and move on to the next task. That afternoon, Amanda's name doesn't come up again. I work until 5, close my laptop, and leave the building. As I walk to my car, I feel a kind of quiet. It's not satisfaction. It's not even relief. Just quiet. Tuesday morning, the building was quieter than usual. I could hear my heels on the tile as I walked to my office. I'd asked the legal team to come at 10. I nodded to them and closed the door behind me. We sat. No one tried to make small talk. I placed the Langford consulting file in front of me and waited while the lead counsel, MS. Patel, passed out copies of the contract clauses. She spoke first. We've flagged 3 areas of concern, MS. Harris. Breach of confidentiality, missed deliverables, and language around automatic renewal. She pointed to a highlighted section. If we don't give notice by the 15th, the contract extends for another year. That's 3 days from now. I kept my eyes on the text. The deadline was the only thing that mattered. She spoke in a measured voice, never raising it, never looking for agreement. I listened, flipping through each marked pay. There's no ambiguity, I said. We're not continuing. I want the notice drafted, signed, and sent today. No exceptions. Patel nodded. She'd already prepared a draft. She slid it across to me. I read it once, then again, looking for any loophole or language that might come back to haunt me. I took the pen she offered and signed. Patel signed as witness. My assistant, Rachel, was waiting outside the door. She came in when I called. Rachel, print 2 copies for the record. One for legal, one for HR. I want this sent by registered mail and email before noon. CC me on everything. Rachel nodded, collected the documents, and left. I watched her go, then turned back to the legal team. Patel checked her watch. We'll file this with the board and update compliance. If Langford responds, we'll handle it. I nodded. That's all. Thank you. They left in a line, closing the door quietly. I sat at the table for a few minutes, looking at the empty chair across from me. The edge of the contract stuck out from the folder. Rachel returned with the stamped, signed copies. She handed them to me, her eyes searching my face. Do you want me to notify HR about the contract's end date? She asked. Yes. Today. Make sure they update payroll and access lists. No delays. She nodded and left again, closing the door behind her. I sat back, hands folded. The window behind me showed the city in the pale morning light. I could hear the printer in the outer office, the faint sound of Rachel's voice on the phone. I waited until I heard the chime of a sent email. A few minutes later, Rachel came in again, her steps more tentative. All sent. Registered mail is scheduled for pickup at 11. Email confirmations are in your inbox. HR has acknowledged the termination and will update their system. Thank you, I said. She hesitated, then left. I looked at the clock, 10:43 a.m. The date on the notice was clear, the signature crisp and black. I slid the folder into my locked drawer and checked my phone. No new messages from Langford, not yet. It was done, at least on paper. The office felt colder. I could hear the heating kick on, a low hum under the silence. I looked at the contract, then at the door, waiting for the first sign of fallout. My phone rang at 3:17 p.m., the number on the screen familiar. I let it ring twice before picking up. I could hear her breathing before she spoke, that clipped inhale my mother-in-law always had when she was about to argue. We've worked with your company for years, she said. There must be some misunderstanding. I kept my voice steady. All contracts are subject to regular review. This was a performance-based decision. The team's findings were clear. She didn't pause. Her tone shifted, softer but with an edge. We've always delivered on time. We've never had a complaint from your side. I know you're new in your position, but I'd like to speak to someone higher up. We can resolve this. I listened, not interrupting. When she finished, I said, the review is complete. The decision is final. You'll receive written notice with all findings and next steps. She started again, this time with a hint of desperation. I'm sure Amanda has told you this contract is important for our family. For the business. We're willing to negotiate rates or terms. Let's not do anything rash. I waited for her voice to settle. This is not personal. The performance metrics are documented. We're moving forward with a new vendor next quarter. You'll have the opportunity to rebid in the future, if you choose. There was a silence on the line. I could hear papers rustling. She almost whispered, I can't believe you're doing this. After everything. I didn't respond. The silence stretched. Finally, she said, I'll wait for the documentation. Then hung up. I sat for a moment, staring at the phone. My hands were steady. I pulled up the call log, typed out a summary date, time, participants, content, direct quotes where necessary. I attached it to the vendor file, flagged it for legal review, and forwarded it with a short note. Call received from vendor regarding non-renewal. No deviation from standard policy. No further action required at this time. My inbox pinged with an automated confirmation from legal. I closed the window, leaned back, and let my eyes rest on the framed team photo on the shelf. Amanda's mother's voice lingered in my ears, the way she'd said after everything. I thought about the nights at their dining table, the forced politeness, always trying to keep the conversation on safe ground. The way she'd smiled at Amanda, then looked straight through me. I opened the review spreadsheet, scrolled down the vendor list. Her company's numbers were stark. Orders late, quality issues logged, escalation emails left unresolved. The file was thorough. No one could call it a personal grudge. I had checked and checked again. The office was quiet, just the hum of the air conditioning. I could hear footsteps down the hall, someone laughing in the break room. I kept my screen open to the workflow, just in case. I thought about Amanda, how she'd once joked that her mother never lost, never took no for an answer. I wondered if Amanda knew about the call, if she'd hear about it tonight or over the weekend, over the phone or in person. Maybe I'd get a message, maybe not. I felt calm. I'd given her every word I was supposed to, nothing extra. I thought about the years of polite distance, the careful lines drawn at every family holiday. I thought about the way she'd said, "This is not how we do things," and I almost smiled. When the call summary came back with legals reviewed, no issues, tag, I archived it. No one stopped by my office. No one called back. The matter was closed, at least on paper. I checked the clock. It was almost time to leave, but I stayed a little longer, watching the lights start to fade against the windows. I shut down my computer, gathered my bag, and walked out of the office. The sound of her voice faded with every step down the hall. My phone started buzzing before I'd even finished my morning coffee. The group text came up first, Eric's name at the top. "What are you doing, Jules? You're ruining everything." I held the phone in my hand for a while before answering. The kitchen was quiet except for the sound of the fridge. I typed out my reply, business decision. Nothing more. That was all I said. I put the phone face down on the counter. 3 minutes later, Amanda's mother tried to call. I ignored it. The calls kept coming every few minutes, all from different family numbers. I turned my phone to silent and checked my email out of habit. There were already 6 unread messages with subject lines like urgent and please respond ASAP. I didn't open any of them. At work, the atmosphere was off. I could feel it as soon as I walked in. The receptionist glanced up and looked away. No one said good morning. I went to my office and closed the door. I saw the email from Amanda's father about an hour later. The subject line was just his name, no greeting. There was an attachment and a short line in the body, something like, "Let's talk. I have a way to make this right." The file was named Revised Agreement Final. I didn't open it. The deadline printed on the contract had already passed 2 days ago. That was the whole point. By noon, the news had spread further. I overheard people whispering in the break room when I went to get tea. I caught Amanda's name twice, and then it went quiet as soon as they saw me. No one met my eyes. I stood there waiting for the kettle, listening to the clock ticking. One of the junior associates offered me his seat. I shook my head and left with my cup. Eric texted again, this time a string of messages. "You can't do this. You promised us. You're making a mistake." I read each one, watching the little gray bubbles pop up and disappear. I didn't answer. The last message just said, "Please call me." Around 3, Amanda herself emailed. The subject line was empty. In the body, she wrote, "You win." Was it worth it? I stared at that for a while. I didn't write back. I moved her email to a folder and muted the thread. After work, I stopped at the grocery store. I saw a woman who looked like Amanda from behind, same posture, same haircut. She was looking at apples. For a second, I almost said her name, then realized it wasn't her. I left without buying anything. Back home, I checked my phone again. There were more missed calls and a few voicemails, none from Amanda. I sat at the kitchen table and scrolled through the old texts from her, going back months. Most of them were about work or family dinners. There was one from last year on my birthday. "Hope you like the cake, love you." I deleted the whole conversation. It was quiet in the apartment. I made myself a sandwich and ate it over the sink. The unread file from Amanda's father was still in my inbox. I didn't touch it. The deadline was over. There was nothing left to discuss. The office felt different now, and so did the family threads. I could see the shift, even in their silence. I finished my dinner and washed the plate, listening to the water run. The phone stayed quiet for the rest of the night. The rehearsal dinner was held in a hall attached to the country club. Everything looked deliberate: white linens, fake candles, Amanda's mother arranging the place cards with her lips pressed tight. I arrived on time, no one greeting me as I walked in. My dress was plain. I took a seat at the edge of the room, next to the piano that hadn't been tuned in years. People spoke in low voices. Amanda's uncle laughed too loudly at something that wasn't funny. I could feel eyes flicker toward me, then away. I watched Amanda move through the crowd, her hair pinned back, her dress new. She smiled at her cousin, and then saw me. Her face changed, like she'd swallowed something sharp. She crossed the room. Her heels clicked on the tile, a sound that made people turn. She did not sit. She leaned in close, her breath sharp with white wine. "You destroyed us," she said, very quietly. I looked up at her. "You never asked who I was," I said. She flinched. I saw Eric behind her, holding 2 glasses. He looked tired. He'd lost weight since the last time I'd seen him, maybe from the stress, maybe from the guilt. His tie was crooked. He set the glasses on the table and stood behind Amanda, not touching her. "Julia, please," he started. I shook my head. "You chose your path." "So did I." He looked down at his hands, jaw clenched. Amanda took a shaky breath. Her mother watched from a few tables away, face tight. No one said anything for a long moment. Amanda's uncle called her name, pretending not to notice the tension. Amanda straightened. She walked away, not looking back. Eric stayed frozen, then finally turned to follow her. I was left with the sound of plates, forks clinking. People kept glancing at me. Amanda's father avoided my eyes. Her mother whispered to a cousin. The tablecloths looked too clean, as if they'd never seen a real meal. The laughter was forced, brittle. I sat through the speeches. Amanda's sister fumbled a toast, her voice shaking. Eric barely smiled. After dinner, the photographer gathered everyone for a family photo. He knew someone Amanda's mother had found last minute. He waved me over, polite, not knowing the story. "Would you like to be in this one?" he asked. "Not tonight," I said. He nodded and turned the camera away. The family huddled, but no one put an arm around anyone else. The flash went off. I watched the photo being taken, saw Amanda's smile slip at the edges. Eric blinked too early. Her mother stared straight ahead. I stayed at my table while people mingled. No one came near me. I finished my water, folded my napkin, and waited until the room emptied out. The leftover cake slices were untouched. The pianist packed up without playing a note. As I left, Amanda and Eric stood by the door. She was talking to her father, but not listening. Eric glanced at me, then looked away. I walked past them and out into the night. The parking lot was quiet. The air smelled like rain. My car was the only one left at the far end. I sat behind the wheel for a minute, hands on the steering wheel, headlights off. No one followed me. I drove home in silence, the road empty except for the occasional streetlight. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't need any more noise. The morning after the wedding, I woke up earlier than usual. The house was quiet. My suitcase still sat in the hallway, half unzipped. I left it there and went straight to the kitchen. I turned on the coffee maker and watched the digital clock count up each minute. No messages. No missed calls. I sat at the table and scrolled through my phone, not looking for anything. I opened Amanda's profile first. Her wedding photos were already up. Perfect hair, her hand on Eric's chest, her parents standing like bookends. I looked for myself in the background, but I wasn't anywhere. I went through the comments. Congratulations, heart emojis, old friends saying how happy they looked. I pressed on Amanda's name and hit block. Her parents, her brother, her maid of honor. One by one, I removed them. Then I moved to LinkedIn. I found each of their profiles and hit block again. I opened the internal company chat. I removed Amanda from my contacts, marked the group chat as left. The whole process took less than 5 minutes. I signed into the client portal. The contract for Amanda's family business was still open. I read through the final draft one last time. My company's email with the termination notice was sitting in my drafts. I clicked send. The confirmation message popped up, then disappeared. It was done. Around noon, I got a text from Eric. The preview showed his name, nothing else. I opened it. Hope it was worth it. That was all he wrote. I read it twice. I didn't answer. I went into my contacts and deleted his number. When his name disappeared, it felt like closing a window. I put my phone face down. The rest of the day was quiet. I answered work emails, filed expenses from the trip, booked a cleaning service for the apartment. I ordered takeout and ate on the couch. There were no more calls or messages. I didn't check Amanda's profile again. I didn't look at Eric's. I turned off notifications for the rest of the weekend. By Monday, my calendar was full again. Meetings, deadlines, calls with clients who had nothing to do with Amanda or her family. I adjusted to the new routine. My phone stayed silent except for work. I cleared out old messages, archived shared photos, erased everything that wasn't necessary. I thought about what Amanda might say when she saw the contract cancellation. Maybe she'd act surprised in the office. Maybe she'd say nothing at all. Eric's message was the last thing either of them sent me. There was no apology, no explanation. Just the same silence I'd given them back. That week, I saw Amanda in the hallway at work. She looked past me. We both kept walking. No one else noticed. At lunch, I sat with other people, listened to their stories, nodded where it felt right. I didn't mention Amanda. I didn't mention the wedding. My name came off the event sign-up lists, and nobody asked why. Every time I checked my socials, there were fewer reminders. No tagged posts, no shared memories. Everything filtered out, like it was supposed to. I got used to it faster than I expected. The apartment was quiet. My routine stayed the same. The only difference was that nothing came in from them anymore. At night, I slept without checking my phone. In the morning, I read the news instead of scrolling through old photos. The world kept moving. I kept moving with it. There was nothing left for me to answer. 3 weeks passed. The Langford consulting office stayed dark, the windows covered in brown paper. I saw a moving truck outside one morning when I parked. No one said anything, but people in our industry noticed things. Their clients started calling us, quietly, asking if we could take on extra work. I said yes when it made sense. I didn't ask about Eric. Our quarterly report closed strong. I read the numbers twice, then closed the file. The board sent a thank you note, a real card, not an email. It said decisive leadership in neat handwriting. I left it in my drawer, unopened after that first glance. Eric didn't call. He didn't text. I checked my blocked list once and saw his name was still there. I never felt tempted to remove it. My mother called on a Wednesday. She asked if I wanted lunch, just us. No mention of Eric, no mention of family dinners. I said yes. She picked a quiet place, across town, nothing fancy. She didn't apologize. She asked if I was sleeping. I said yes. She asked if I wanted dessert. I said no. At work, everything went back to normal. People still gossiped in the break room, but not about me. I deleted Eric's contact from my phone. I didn't notice until the next week when I tried to remember his number and couldn't. The city felt quieter. I noticed the sound of the elevator doors closing at night. I stayed late sometimes, just to see the office empty. Nothing left to prove. Nothing left to hide. A month after the wedding, I saw Amanda at the coffee shop next to my office. I noticed her as soon as I walked in. She was sitting near the window, scrolling on her phone, half a muffin left on a plate. She looked up when the door chimed. Our eyes met for maybe half a second. She looked away first, back to her screen. I joined the line, pulled out my phone, and pretended to check messages. People ahead of me ordered lattes and pastries. The air was thick with espresso and something warm, but I didn't feel hungry. I ordered a black coffee, paid in cash, and gave my first name out of habit. I waited at the side counter, a few feet from Amanda. She kept her eyes on her phone, but every so often, she'd glance up and then look away when she realized I wasn't leaving. Her nails were shorter than I remembered. She wore a new jacket, something expensive, pale blue. The barista called my name. She handed me a cup with my company's logo, printed on the side. I took it and nodded thanks. I didn't look at Amanda as I walked out. She didn't call after me. Outside, it was colder than I expected. I took a sip of coffee and waited at the crosswalk, watching my reflection in the glass. I saw Amanda through the window, sitting alone, her shoulders hunched. I crossed the street and kept walking. My phone buzzed with a calendar reminder. I didn't check it until I was half a block away. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to plan something like this, but sometimes silence is the best answer to betrayal. My husband counted on me staying quiet, on me not noticing what was happening right in front of me. Maybe I waited too long, or maybe I acted just in time. I wonder what you would have done in my place. Would you have confronted him, or let things unravel on their own? Maybe you've had people in your life who looked you in the eye and lied without blinking. Did you let them get away with it? I'm still not sure if revealing everything was the right move, or if I should have kept my head down and let him believe he D1. Sometimes it's hard to know when to speak up and when to let people trap themselves. If you've ever been in a situation like this, I'd like to hear about it. Leave a comment if you want, or just let me know if you've ever chosen revenge over forgiveness. If these stories help, subscribe or like. It means more than you think. Would you have revealed yourself or stayed silent?